and welcome on Safari Live. My name is Brent Smith. I am going to be your vehicle-based guide today. I have Brian Djuma on camera. We have the walking backpack. So for those of you who were on the Sunset Safari last night, we're in search of the Tsalala Pride of Lions. James left them lying up just to the left or right of me here. We can't find any tracks on quarantine, so I'm going to loop around, see if we can find any tracks there. For those of you who are wondering, Donna was wondering, did the Lions make a kill last night? Me too, Donna, me too. So we're going to try our best to find them, and let's get going and see what's out there. It's been really great having the Tsalala Pride of Lions around. It's a Pride of Lions I used to watch many years ago when I worked at the Southern Sabi Sands, and were one of my favorite prides at that time. And fast becoming my favorite pride again. Very distinctive pride with that tailless lioness who lost her tail to an altercation with hyenas. So I know a lot of our regular viewers are still a little bit confused about what's happening between drives now. Previously we used to play a highlights reel about what was seen on the safaris. Now when we stop broadcasting live from the vehicles and from the walks, we go straight to the Djuma cam, so we can stay live 24 hours a day. So my head's going to be bent off the vehicle quite a bit for now, so we can find a track and see which direction those lions have gone in. One second, guys, it's going to be on the game drive radio. Good morning, Craig, and no updates yet. One station following up on Tsalala Pride. Western edge of quarantine. So I'm wondering whether they moved through this block down. There's a nice prominent game path coming here, or did they cut further north? Questions to be answered by tracks, hopefully very shortly. See a lion track there, Brian, going down the path? Doesn't look like it. Always, after a little bit of rain, we have to check triple carefully. Since the ground's a bit harder, the rain compacts the soil, makes setting tracks a little bit more difficult. So from what I can see here, it doesn't look like the lions have come this way. Oh, a very warm Djuma welcome to John from California, who's asking for updates on the other prides of lions that we see regularly, the Inkahumas, and even more specifically the young male lion that was part of the Inkahuma Pride, who's been nicknamed Junior. And John, unfortunately, no update on Junior, but the rest of the pride are on a giraffe kill to the property to the north of us. and I think they're still there and going to be there for a couple of days. Still a lot of meat left on that giraffe, but no sign of Junior for about a week and a half now. Maybe he has finally grown his wings and left his mommy. And also no updates on the Salati males. They are, as far as I'm aware, still in the north in the Manueleti Game Reserve. The Birminghams are to the south of us. Hopefully, apparently there's one Birmingham male mating with a Styx lioness. They moved into the property to the east of us. Hopefully they continue to move west towards our eastern boundary. So the lions were sleeping over here when James left them last night in a nice open area, and we're just trying to figure out which direction they went from there. No luck so far. So Abby's wondering, did we stay up all night to try watch these lions hunt? Well, not all night. We did, after the safari ended, grab the ladies from Final Control and take them out so they could also enjoy the lion live, in real life and not through the screen. But when we were there, they slept for about half an hour and we decided to go home and have some dinner. Almost looks like these lions have grown wings, and the area they were sleeping in is completely surrounded by roads, but no tracks so far. And there was a big herd of zebra outside our camp last night, but they were still around this morning, so it doesn't look like the lions went that way. So now we've got to be quite careful because the lions came in from this direction. So we've got to see if there's tracks on top of tracks. We're moving very slowly, checking very carefully. We don't want to miss any tracks. So this is where they came into the clearings, and I can see James's tracks on top, and all the tracks are going right down onto the clearing, and no tracks going out. So we're going to go check main access road, see if they've walked up there. Just going to chat with Taxon, who's also looking for these lions. Tax. Morning, Tax. I can't find any in Nkonzo of those Ngala from where they left quarantine. Only the Nkonzo coming in. I'm going to check around for tele-access, then probably down towards Philemon's Dip. Negative. You're more than welcome to check there. Robbie, thanks. So what we're doing is we're checking all the other roads around here, and with more than one vehicle checking, it gives us a much greater chance of possibly finding those tracks and finding those animals. So finding big game is definitely a team effort. Morning. I think maybe they fumble over that hard ground into the Shkova towards Zoe's Balanites. Yeah, I'll go around this side. Okay, so Tax is going to check out here, and we're going to go back down towards Philemon's Dip, see if the tracks come up there. We've got some good news from John in California, who keeps a close eye on all the lion movement in this part of the world. And John saying that the Talamati pride have had 9 cubs to the Salati males in the Magnaletti. So that's just to the north of us. Hopefully those cubs make it to adulthood. But it is a difficult time to have cubs. With these 5 Birminghams around, they haven't been that far north. But coming from the north is another coalition, or 2 other coalitions of male lions. I think one's called the giraffe males, and the other are called the skybed males. I think there's 4 males in the giraffe males, and 9 in the skybeds. Very upset grey go-away bird alarm calling. But there could be alarm calling for a bird of prey. And I'm not hearing any other alarm calls, so I think we will move along. And for the birders out there, the first of some of our migrants have arrived. The red-chested cuckoo, who we should hear at some point quite soon. We heard them yesterday. And there's an Afrikaans folk song called Piet my vrou, and the sort of South African colloquialism for a red-chested cuckoo is Piet my vrou, which means Pete, my wife. Very confusing, I know. And also the class is cuckoo, so the cuckoos have been from the first to arrive and have a very distinct call, and also how we remember that call comes from Afrikaans. The call goes like this. And it's said to say Mikey, 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 which means friend, friend, friend. And another that I've heard a couple of times is the European bee eater, and they haven't come down yet, but I've heard them very high, calling and hawking for insects. And the woodlands kingfishers, which I know are a firm favourite of a lot of our long-time viewers. Last year, well, in Hoedspruit, which is not too far from here, they arrived exactly on the 12th of November. know we get going just as the sun's popping up. The sun is behind this huge cloud bank in front of us at the moment. And Philip from West Virginia is wondering if we're allowed to drive the property in the early hours of the morning. We are, Philip, but there's a very particular reason why we do get going in the light. Unless we know exactly where something is, if we drove around in the dark, we would run serious risk of destroying all the tracks, and it would make finding animals a lot more difficult. So even with nice bright spotlights and things, seeing the tracks in car lights is very difficult because of the angle that the light hits them. I think the lions might have gone through here or through there. So Tax is checking on that crest over there, and we're going to check round through to the top of the crest here, the base like that. Morning, Maggie. Maggie's wondering if we've found the new hyena den. Unfortunately not, Maggie. We haven't as of yet, but we do think it is in an area where we're unable to get cars. A series of very steep drainage lines, or little beginnings of rivers. So some of those things are probably 12 to 20 foot deep and very, very difficult to get a vehicle in there. Come on, kitty cats. So yesterday on the sunrise safari, you saw a very sickly young buffalo with James, and Pink Alden from Washington is wondering, do we know what happened to it? Unfortunately, we don't know what happened to that sickly buffalo calf. Edward was wondering, well, if the Salalas managed to catch that calf, would they still be on it, or would they have moved off? I unfortunately didn't see that calf, so I'm not sure how large it is, but if it was a sort of sub-adult rather than a really small calf, there's a very strong possibility if they did catch it that they still would be on it. Just having a quick check down the road, you never know. Okay, now where are these lion tracks going to come out? Just going to check a little bit up here, then I'm going to come back down, and no, let's go with the gut. The gut says go this way. Listening again carefully. Quite often listening is the best way to find animals, and there's a little duiker in front of us, right? Here we go. A little male grey duiker, or bush duiker, or Grimm's bush duiker. It's got a few different names across Africa. And interestingly enough, the royal tribe of Botswana, that is their totem animal. is the duiker, and it seems to be quite a strange totem animal for an African tribe, but there's quite a lovely little story that goes along with that. And the Khama family are the royal family in Botswana, and Chief Khama's village was attacked by a marauding horde of Indabele or Matabele warriors who used to regularly raid Botswana cattle along what is now the boundary between Zimbabwe and Botswana. And they were ambushed and surprised while moving through the bush by a group of Matabele warriors, and Chief Khama ran and tried to hide from them. And you've got these wonderful acacias that you get in Botswana that we don't get here, and they're called Acacia hebeclava, or the candlepod acacia, and they grow very thick and very close to the ground, like in almost an umbrella form, but touching the ground, and their pods stick straight up in the air, hence the name candlepod acacia. And Chief Khama, in this big open plain, the only thing to hide in were these different hebeclava thickets. So he dived into one and he crawled in through the thorns, and he was hiding from this group of Matabele warriors who came charging around, and they knew he had to be in one of these thickets. So they started checking systematically, thicket by thicket, and obviously he thought, well, my time's up now, it's all over, they're going to spear me to death. And in the particular thicket he crawled into, the story goes that there was a little male duiker lying there, and it didn't run when he crawled into the thicket, and he sat eye to eye with it. And as the Ndebele came through to the thicket he was hiding in, he poke, looking, and a duiker ran out, and they were said to say, look, he's not here. There's a munti, a duiker in the bush. The duiker wouldn't have stayed in this bush if he had hidden here. And so they moved off, and they left Chief Khama, and he survived. So that is why the grey duiker is the totem animal of the Khama family, who is the royal family of Botswana. And strangely enough, the current democratically elected president of Botswana is a member of that Botswana royal family, Lieutenant General Ian Khama. And he does quite a lot for conservation in Africa, a very interesting man. And if it hadn't been for a duiker, he probably wouldn't have been president, as the Khama family would have been wiped out by the Indabele tribe. Sorry guys, I'm just going to be on the radio for a second. Sorry Andrew, I missed that update. I think those lines have crossed this drainage line from the western edge of quarantine somewhere into this area. So I'm going to be going very slowly again. The road's quite hard here, so it's difficult to spot trucks. Sorry guys, just getting the morning updates and stuff. I'll be with you guys in a second. Sorry, taxi, you're breaking up quite badly. Please go again. So while I wait to hear from Tax, we've got a lovely little message from Mary in Michigan. Mary says, great to be on board with myself and Brian and James and Andrew this morning. She knows we're looking for lions, but are there any leopards on property? We're not sure yet. We're gonna have to go have a look. I'll see with James. James might find some tracks, so we're definitely on the prowl for all felines. But there are currently, as I'm aware, no leopards on property, but that can change in an instant or overnight. So until we've checked properly everywhere, I can't give you a definite answer there, Mary. Taxon. Tax, your last update broke up very badly. What do you have there? Okay, copy, thanks very much. No encuentro that side. Okay, copy, thanks very much, Tax. So while we continue to scour for these lion tracks, there's been no sign of them up on Zoe's road, so maybe they've flown the coop, so to speak, but we will keep checking. We're going to go see what the bushwalk's up to with James and Andrew.
There we go. Good morning everybody. I am lying here in great comfort on the eastern fringes of Djuma Game Reserve. My name is James Henry, and on camera today we have Andrew Francis. He is dressed in a large pack with an aerial and various microwave signals coming out of it and reaching you in various parts of the world. We are on a bushwalk. That means we are on foot, which is the most intimate way to experience the wilderness. And I certainly have enjoyed my last two experiences, just very silent and very in touch, if you like, with the earth. What we're looking at here are two little species of grass. Well, I'll show you the second one just now. This is called the sword-tooth lovegrass, or Arathusa superba. Now, Arathusa superba is a very beautiful looking grass, not a particularly good grazing grass, but excellent in the garden if you happen to like growing grasses in your garden. And it's called the love grass because of the shape of the seeds internally. You can't really see the heart-shaped seeds in there, but it is very, very attractive. Then the second grass I'm going to show you is this one here. Now this is a very important grass. It's called Panicum maximum, and Panicum maximum is a very good grazing grass, highly nutritious, and normally grows in the shade underneath some acacia trees, but I found it here out in the open. And you can see that the seeds have already been eaten. Lots of them have already been eaten, and you can also see, and this is perhaps something new for many people, Andrew, I don't know if you can perhaps focus in, there are a couple of flowers left. So not just coming out of some of these seeds, you can see the flowers of the grass. That's where the pollen will be caught and dispatched from, and just really beautiful colored grass there. Well done, Andrew, that's amazing. And you can taste the nutrition in grass. Good grass that's good for grazing. Sweet and delicious. Let us go for a walk, see what we can find, and enjoy the intimate experience of being on foot in the wild. I might have to pick Andrew up. He is carrying quite an astonishing amount of equipment with him, and that's not always very easy. We also have Stefan with us. He is a kind of walking a perimeter at the moment, looking for various interesting things. Ooh. Now, come and have a look here. there's a beautiful hole, a beautiful concentric hole, and I can actually see the owner and resident of this hole. Now, Maribeth in Canada, you, despite the plethora of great and enormous wildlife that we have here that people might consider potentially dangerous, you say that you are mostly afraid of snakes and spiders. Well, Meredith, I would, all the way from Canada, I would suggest that you don't put your fingers into this hole when you come out here, or hopefully you'll come out here. This is the hole of a baboon spider, and you can actually entice these fellows out of the hole if you put a piece of grass in there. I'm not going to do that, and I'll tell you why. What happens is they've got special digging parts on their front legs, and when you pull them out, if the hole is damaged at all, they will never be able to dig another hole. What happens is that those special parts that they're born with, they're used to dig the hole and they wear out, and so they can only ever make 1 or 2 holes in their lives. And this is a particularly big baboon spider, and they come from, I can see his legs down there, I don't think you're going to be able to see them on the camera there, but they come from the same family as the tarantulas, and they look a little bit like tarantulas, but they are perfectly harmless. They might give you a little bit of a nip if you truly irritate them. It'll feel a bit like a bee sting, but you can happily put them on your hand and let them crawl over your arms and legs. Maribeth, possibly not something you should be doing if they make you a little afraid. Certainly when I came out to the bush, you know, I was pretty terrified of insects and things. I came from the city and I was very much in the place that you are, Maribeth. But now it's just experience and time on the ground and spending time with small, what people might term creepy crawlies, that gives you the confidence to be around them and just realize that there's very little harm that they can actually do. In terms of snakes, we get lots of snakes around here, but they avoid us. They generally don't like to be anywhere near us, and so we seldom actually see them, and that's, well, I suppose that's quite a good thing. But there are some very beautiful snakes around here, and it's often very nice to spend a bit of time with them, especially something like a puff adder. A puff adder is, I suppose, most closely related to a North American rattlesnake. It's part of that sort of family. The Viperidae is the family, unless I'm much mistaken, and they are very sluggish, not to strike, but they're very sluggish on the ground. So you can, if you find them in the open, you can spend quite a lot of time examining them, and they've got beautiful skin and beautiful markings on their backs. And they don't see us as prey, they see us as a threat. So as long as you stay away from them and don't try and irritate them too much, they're absolutely fine with having us around. So Maribeth, time in the wilderness is what's going to help you get over your fear of spiders and snakes. Certainly the larger, potentially dangerous big game that we have here, I suspect, well, while you shouldn't ever be terrified of it, it is definitely due your respect in much the same way that the small creatures are. Good question, thank you. Let's just have a quick look at this tree here. And I think there are quite a few of you coming through on the tweet saying that you're not fans of spiders. Yeah, I understand that, I really do, but once you get used to it, I use the same. Once you get used to being around spiders, and if you find them in your home, just leaving them there, you find that you get used to them. Yes, I don't want them crawling across my face either at night, but you know, there's so few that are actually potentially harmful to us. This is one of my favorite trees, and I don't know why it's one of my favorite trees, to be honest. It's not a particularly spectacular African example. It's called a red thorn, or Acacia gerardii, and for some reason I've always just had an attachment to it, and I think it's possibly because it's one of the very first trees that I ever learnt when I came to the bush way back in the year 1847. That's not actually true, I'm not that old. It was in 2000. So this is why it's called a red thorn, and you can see the bark is quite red. Clever name, don't you think, Andrew?
Wonderful name.
Wonderful name, clever. Red thorn, red bark, very nice. And this tree, if we look at a whole picture of it, is picture, if you like, of elephant feeding. Now, elephants like acacia trees. They seem to have very nutritious bark, probably more than they have nutritious leaves. And if you look down here, you can see this tree has been broken off on any number of occasions. And what that has done, quite apart from just providing the elephant with a lot of nutrition, it has provided for other animals to come and live. And you can see the holes that have been dug around here. Andrew may even be able to pick up on the odd ant. Can you see any of the ants there? There are a few ants that are crawling around in the holes, on the branches, in and out. Oh, here's a whole little group of ants that are living up top there. I'm not sure if you can get in there. A whole little colony, look at that. Little colony of ants, and they'll have a nest either in some of the thorns or underneath the bark, and they'll be looking for things to eat. So, contained in this one small tree, in part of a vast 8 million acre wilderness, is a little ecosystem, part of a much wider ecosystem. And it always just amazes me. You know, you don't see this stuff when you're driving, of course. You do, but it doesn't feel the same when you can't get up to it and touch it and feel it. And this tree, of course, is also important for things like bush babies in the wintertime. They like to eat a lot of gum, acacia gum in the winter, very rich in nutrition. And if you taste the bark of the red thorn, it's my favorite acacia bark taste. Well, I'm not going to try and cut some off now, but if you can get to the inner bark when it's still wet, it's got a really lovely sweet taste about it, and you can see why the elephants favor it so much. So we'll carry on along here, see what else we can spot. And we're obviously talking a lot about insects and smaller things. A lot of the time when we're on foot, we're not actively searching for something large and hairy and perhaps clawed and horned. And while we're doing that, we've been chatting about possibly dangerous smaller things. And Boyd in North Carolina, other than the Anopheles mosquito, the purveyor of malaria, scourge to so many African places, you want to know what is the most dangerous. There's a nyala. Boyd, I'll get back to your question now. It's just so lovely to see these animals on foot, especially when they haven't seen us. Just grazing peacefully. There are also lions calling. You can hear doves everywhere. And there are lions calling to the south of us. Way to the south. I suspect that's the 5 Birmingham boys, giving their last morning shout before they go to That's really nice. So that nyala has probably not seen us, I don't think. And watch, we'll walk slowly down the road towards him and watch how he reacts to us. Come on, Andrew, don't dally. Boyd, I am still going to answer your question, fear not. Let's just enjoy this nyala and see how close we can get to him before he reacts. He's not particularly aware. If I was a lion right now, I'd be definitely having nyala for breakfast. We'll just sneak around the corner. While we're walking, Boyd, you want to know the most dangerous other sort of out here. I suppose the next would be a tick, perhaps. Ticks give you something called tick bite fever, which is a particularly unpleasant thing to get, but it's nothing like as bad as malaria. You do get black widow spiders here, but again, you know, if you've got medical attention within a few days of being bitten by one, you'd be absolutely fine. They are pretty toxic. Then of course we do get scorpions here, and parabutid scorpions carry quite a lot of venom, and I suppose if you get bitten by a parabutid scorpion, you can get yourself into trouble. But again, if you get to medical attention in a few hours, you'd be absolutely fine. Lots of other scorpions, sort of bee sting, and some others that are very painful but not particularly neurologically dangerous around here. So let's go with the parabutid scorpion and perhaps the tick, but nothing dire. Look, there he is. Look at that, he's right here, he's watching us. He's either under the mistaken impression that we can't see him, or he's just not particularly affected by us, and I hope it's the latter. But I think you'll find that he has realized he's been spotted and is now just within that border of fight or flight. While we're looking at him, Brent Leo Smith, the enthusiastic and inimitable, has found himself some fresh lion tracks, and that will no doubt be very exciting. Let's hand you back to him, and we'll carry on exploring here and see what else we can see.
So we've found the lion tracks. We can see here, there's a nice clear one crossing to the south, heading towards Arathusa at the moment. So we're going to drive around and see if we can find the tracks coming across on the next road. So at least we've got the tracks, and I did hear that lion audio. I think James also heard it, but it's to the south of our boundary, unfortunately. But let's see if we can just stick on the tracks of the Tsalala Pride, and hopefully not too long we'll find the animals making fresh tracks. Let me just update the game drives about these tracks. Gonzo by Tamingala, heading south from Philemon's Dip Junction, those following up. So they're heading straight down towards the boundary between Arathusa and Djuma. Firm Tux, it's heading towards Gari Main Triple N Junction from that big Nkohuma at the end of Philemon's cut line. So we've got tracks, and so we got half in the game now. We're not wandering aimlessly, we have a plan. Not that we were wandering aimlessly earlier, but always much more exciting to have the tracks to follow. We just got to hope they cross into Arathusa and not straight across. We're going to keep focusing on these lion tracks now, and hopefully we get some luck in which direction they're going. Here we go. They've come out onto the road here, now heading west. I'm just going to change game drive channels and cross across the Arathusa channel quickly. It's going to It'll be very interesting to see where they go from this next road junction. I don't see any tracks here. I'm hoping they haven't cut into this property to the south. Or if they have, let's hope they've just taken a shortcut across the corner. Just double check in a big wide arc here, see if we can see any tracks crossing. I wonder if they're heading back towards their normal home range, which is directly south from here. It's an access road, so it can be quite busy, so sometimes the trucks do get driven over, so we're going very, very slowly. Might have just nipped through the corner. Here we go. Cross straight into Arathusa. That's very good news. So we're going to go back. There's another road that runs parallel to this one. Always pays to check down these long roads, you never know what might be down there. The tracks, there's a road that runs parallel to that access road where we saw the tracks going across. So I'm hoping they've popped out onto here. I'm just on the radio with the game drives on Arathusa to see if maybe they found them or there's tracks further ahead.
Hello everyone, sorry, I'm just reattaching the radio to my bottom, well, obviously not my bottom, my belt. We're wandering along here and we had a wonderful example of some ants, but they were in a place where there was a signal dip. What we have here though, and maybe some of you saw this last time, was, and we were very lucky in that we managed to induce the little fellow out of his nest. And I will try and do the same again here for those of you who were not on our last walk in the afternoon. Now an antlion is a larval form of something called a damselfly, if my memory serves me correctly. There he is. Can you see him kicking? Did you see that, Andrew? And I can actually see his pincers there. We'll see if we can't induce him to come out entirely. Now what he does is, an ant comes wandering along here, it walks along the fringes of this cone, and then it kicks a little bit of sand in, exactly like this grass is doing there. And when the antlion feels that, he tosses a whole lot of sand up at the cone, just like he did there. And what that does is it makes the ant fall back into this trap of death. And the antlion then grabs it with its little pincers and sucks the juices, nutritious juices out of the ant's abdomen, and in so doing becomes a little bit larger And eventually, I mean, the adult looks like, if you don't know what a damselfly is, it looks a little bit like a dragonfly wings. And you can't believe that this thing, when it comes out, from what it them out, they're very good at digging, so I'm not too worried about the insensitivity of digging them out, because they're very good at digging holes, but they're also very good at hiding. Is that him? Have I got him? No, you see, he's managed to escape me. Nasty little fellow. He'll be in there somewhere. He'll be able to dig that hole again in probably less than a few minutes. So that's the antlion. Let's carry on, see what else we can find. We haven't found any major tracks yet, so we're not as yet on any kind of tracking expedition. Let us go. And you might also be able to see, just grow, sort of, and that's a very kind compliment from a fry, I think. I don't think maybe that's your name. But you say that very cool. Oh, Zai. That we know the names of all the trees. Yes. I do wish, though, that I knew a bit more about the specific names of, say, the ants. So there are hundreds of species of ants we get out here, and we can probably get family level. In terms of species, we're really pretty. We've got no picture.
Well, it's not psychedelic.
So just get over this little ridge crest here, and we'll hopefully have in the field, of course. And we do need to sort of
So in our search for lions, we've come across this massive Ellie bull, and it looks like he's following a breeding herd. I saw fresh dung of a herd of elephants, and he seems to be following that, and he stopped and sniffed the dung briefly. Lovely big bull. And unfortunately, I've got some very bad news. We're still on the lion tracks, they're on the road here, but Roy has found them further along, and they have unfortunately crossed out of our traverse zone. So the Tsalalas seem to be heading home towards the Sand River. Seems to be a few bigger Ellie bulls. So that track we were looking at earlier was of one of the Tsalala lionesses, and they've crossed straight through Arathusa, heading down back towards their normal range, which is around the Sand River in an area called Martley. Here's big boy. Oh, he's absolutely massive. It's giving us a little smell. It's so nice to have a few big Ellie bulls. I mean, he's probably 3.5 meters at the shoulder. If he stops near a nice tree before he moves on, we'll come back to that tree so you can see the exact height difference. And because I am 190 centimeters, so just below 6'4". Look at him picking off that little buffalo thorn. A lot of the ellies we've been seeing at the moment all feeding off buffalo thorns, and the giraffe, strangely enough. All the nice new green leaves full of nutrients. Oh yes, you're very big. Isn't he massive? And completely relaxed, it's incredible. Well, let's go stick with him, see if he leads us to the breeding herd. You can see he's smelling, he could be smelling for the other ellies. Still with this ellie bull, and he's moved off the road, going into a particularly thick block of bush at the moment. And I can hear other elephants up ahead. So I'm going to try jump ahead of him. It sounds like there's more ellies over here. I can hear branches breaking. And definitely looks like he is tracking. I mean, you can see there's quite a lot of elephant tracks across the road here. And it sounded like almost right here. Do I see an elephant through the gory bushes? I thought I might. So he's all by himself, and Tina's wondering why. Well, Tina, elephant bulls spend a lot of their time by themselves. They do spend some time with the breeding herds, but they tend to prefer to be on their own, away from the hustle and bustle of children and noise, and they generally will only come towards a breeding herd when they're in must or about to come in must. Although sometimes maybe they just like the company of other ellies. Quite often you'll find elephant bulls in bachelor groups, so they do like company. It's just they're not so fond of all the sort of screaming and shouting and running around that happens around a big breeding herd of ellies. This is where I thought I heard a few more elephants. And I said this is quite a thick block. This is one of the only areas where it's easy to drive into this block. And there we go. There's looks like some more ellies down there. You can just see a bum through the bush. But we're gonna try get into the right spot where this big boy is gonna walk out towards us. Unfortunately, this big cloud bank seems to be moving in quite quickly. At least we got some of that lovely morning light early on. There he is. There's a lot more elephants. There's another ellie there, but here comes the big boy. Aggie's wondering, do ellie bulls only mate when they're in must? And if so, how long is it between musts? Now, Aggie must is quite a strange thing. It varies upon elephant from elephant, and also it varies in length, so it can normally last for about a month, but sometimes a bit longer. It generally only happens once a year. And what happens is when a big dominant bull comes into must, it's generally at the time of the year when the most females are in must. So little young bulls will come into must when there's almost no females to mate with, and the big bulls dominate that must cycle where the most females are in estrus. And obviously as they get older, their must cycles will change. He's about to pop out of the bush right opposite us. There we go. He's just, look at that. Look at that trunk going up and grabbing some of those nice fresh. No, decides he didn't want them. Oh yes, he does. And you can see right into his mouth there. You can even see his teeth. Isn't that incredible? Not often you get to see an elephant bull's teeth. And so his top layer of teeth there. There we go. Hello, big boy. So it looks like he's going to go past behind us. And now you're going to see an impressive camera swing almost 360 degrees by Brian as he goes all the way around back to the ellie. Well, as we follow this gentleman from behind, Gilly in Wisconsin said she's just found out that bull elephants' testicles are internal. And how, since semen is supposed to be cooler than the rest of the body, because for it to be viable, how does an elephant survive this in complete contrast to all other mammals? Well, if we have a look at him when we get a chance, his testicles are right up near the top of his hip. Probably. Okay, let's just sidle in here. So, from the top of the bone on either side, probably about 30 centimeters down, a little bit higher, Brian. There we go. And that's where the testicles are, just in front of that hip bone there. And really the reason is that the ancient ancestors of elephants are quite an unusual one. So they've actually come from the ocean out, So the marine mammals all have their testicles on the inside. So a very ancient relative of the elephant is a marine mammal is a mammal that went out of the ocean, back into the ocean, and then out again. And that's how they have that very unique adaptation. And obviously they're a bit different from other mammals in the fact that their testicles don't need to be on the outside, and they'll still breed quite successfully. Just gonna try to get in front of this big boy one last time before he goes into some really thick bush. Good morning, Ash, or Country Girl Ash. And Country Girl would like to know, what does a female elephant look for in a mate? Well, generally the biggest, strongest and most dominant. Like most animals in the wild, they want to make sure that all those really successful traits in their mate will be passed on to their children. So, biggest, strongest, most virile. It looks like he's decided not to follow that breeding herd that's in the thickets there. Probably just going to go have a check, and he's now moved away from them, and he's onto some grass on this natural seep line and having a bit of a graze. So he wraps his trunk, pulls it out, roots and all, and then we'll beat the sand off the roots because no one likes eating sand. Oh, you missed it. Yeah, a bit too much sand for him on that, so shaking it off. Well, he's definitely on a mission this morning. So, as Paul and Tina have aptly named him, he is definitely a gentle giant, and we like to keep him that way, so we're not going to follow him anymore. He's moving into some very thick bush, and he's given us such a wonderful sighting and been so relaxed, there's no need to just keep on with him. We can try, maybe go around, see if we can get that breeding herd, but they are in a drainage line. But we'll give it a go. As he disappears, Ashley's wondering how tall would I come up to him on his body. Actually, I'd probably be just above his knees. Very big elephant, so probably a bit over his knees, so probably about this much above the bottom of his belly. Very, very big animal. I said probably easily 3.5 meters at the top of his shoulder. Tina's wondering why elephants flap their ears. Well, Tina, it's their cooling mechanism. It's their inbuilt air conditioner. So there's at any one time about 8 liters, which is just under 2 gallons of blood in an elephant's ears, and the blood vessels and veins are very close to the surface. So when they flap, it cools the blood and sends the cool blood through to the rest of the body, and obviously the body sends in the heated blood. So it's their cooling mechanism, their inbuilt air conditioner. And so we're going to now move on, see what else we can find. And as I said earlier, unfortunately those lion tracks have crossed out of our traverse area. So Talalas look like they're on their way home. Hopefully they come back for a holiday in the north again soon. But we're going to go see. James has got an arachnid, and I heard he's been speaking about them quite a lot on the safari. So we'll see you a little later.
Just over here is a wolf spider, a magnificent little spider that has caught himself a breakfast of a fly. Now, a wolf spider you may have seen before with us in the night. They have shiny eyes, and you can spot them with a spotlight. Not very easily from the vehicles, of course, but you can see them at night. That's when we normally see them. And they don't make silk webs. Wolf spiders hunt just like I suppose you could describe them as the, lions almost of the bush. Of the arachnid world. They crawl about the place and they find their prey and then they run after it and catch it. And that's what this thing has done with this hapless fly. Now, I mean, despite its very obvious coloration, you can see it's white and grey and shiny. The flies and other insects living on this pile of very fresh, aromatic buffalo dung are seemingly oblivious to his presence. And what he's doing now, of course, what a spider does when it bites something, it's got venom, as we know, but that venom is largely made up of digestive enzymes, and so the spider will bite his prey and inject it with this venom, and while it's dying, the prey is dying, it's also being digested within its own exoskeleton, and once it's kind of liquefied the insides, the enzymes that the spider's put in there, the spider will then suck them out and then leave the husk of the insect. And that's why if you ever find a spider's web, you often find the husks or exoskeletons of various prey items still hanging there. Beautiful, beautiful wolf spider. And this whole patty of buffalo dung, there are two pieces of dung here, there's an old one underneath and a much fresher one here, is another little ecosystem all on its own, much like that red thorn tree that we saw at the beginning of the drive. There are all sorts of beetles in here. There's a funny little white mite there. I mean, who knows what? That's a termite. That's a little termite in there. Little white termite. There's a number of flies around. There are a few ants. And if we were to lift this dung, which I'm not going to do now, because it just looks like a very peaceful little home for so many people. I'm glad I don't have to live in it. But you'll find lots of things underneath, possibly some dung beetles. We haven't had much rain yet, so maybe not too many dung beetles. But certainly the termites will be processing this, and the ants. Oh, there's an ant. Can you see the ant there, Andrew? He's disappeared into a hole. So the termites and ants will be processing this dung. They'll be feeding off each other. It's an entire system going on just here in one pile of poop, basically. And I mean, it's relatively aromatic. Andrew doesn't think it smells very nice. It smells a bit like a dairy, if you like. That's what buffalo tend to smell like. But it certainly is nothing like. You wouldn't find us anything like this close to a lion dung. Right, marvellous little sighting that. We're going to carry on slowly, sort of down this way, and see what else we can find. There are. Because the freshness of this dung, I'm talking quite quietly, as you can hear. Right, on we go. Always also good to while we're listening, we must check the wind. This is a sock belonging to Scott Dyson that has been filled with some ash. So we now know that the wind That's really where you want the wind to be going. So ideally you want it coming from the front of you so that anything that you're approaching will not smell that you're coming towards it. Right, let's carry on down here. So when we were walking earlier, I was speaking in a normal voice, and that's because we didn't have anything in the way of fresh dung. But because there's fresh dung around here now, we're just going to walk a little bit more slowly, and I'm going to talk a little bit more quietly so that I can hear if there's anything breaking or snapping. Let's go through here. We're going to go through the bush here. I see Stefan is over there in front of us. He's security detail today, and there's a beautiful big tree that he's standing underneath called a torchwood, which many of you will know, our regular viewers, but it is of course, yes. There you go. Two corrections there. I'm just helping Andrew to get underneath this tree. I made an error of words there. When we were at the antlion sighting, I think the top quality, is that the name of the Twitter handle? Anyway, two very sharp viewers pointed out that it's not called pup quality Matina. That's quite, every day the Twitter handles become more and more astonishing. Pup quality Matina. You pointed out that it's an antlion is not isn't a damselfly, it's a lacewing. Of course it is. Well done. The larval form of a lacewing, which is like a small or floppy-winged dragonfly. So here is this magnificent tree, glorious Balanites mogami, torchwood, and you can see all around here it's clear of grass and clear of bush, and that's because the elephants, you can also see their dung everywhere, really love the fruit. I've seen lots of nyala around here, and I've seen lots of elephants around this tree. And what they do is they eat away at the little seeds that are on the ground, and the seeds contain a very nutritious oil that is flammable, and that's where you get the, we'll just see if we can find one, that's where you get the common name from, torchwood. Here we go. This is what they look like. And I'm sure our regular viewers would have seen these things often. They're quite common around here, and if you find them fresh, this one isn't very fresh, you can actually extract the oil and burn it, and it's quite interesting to see. I've embarrassed myself on any number of occasions trying to open the seeds up and then burn nothing. It's just rather embarrassing, so I'm not going to do it with this one. And again, on the theme of micro ecosystems, if you like, you can see there that an insect has burrowed in and has made a nest out of this seed, and I would think you will find that the seed has probably passed through the digestive system of an elephant. Amazing. One of my favorite trees, certainly because of the fluted bark or fluted trunk, and by fluted you can not consistently sort of textured like a marula trunk is. It's got a number of flutes, pillars. Marvelous tree. And then while we're walking around here, we've chatted a lot about insects and arachnids and things that might do us damage in terms of in the insect world. Come and look here, Andrew. There's an ant. It seems to be abseiling. I'm not got to where it has or why it's here. But while we're talking about those things, Rich, you want to know what the worst thing I've ever been stung by is. I haven't been bitten or stung by anything too severe. I was set upon by 50 hornets on the golf course about 3 months ago. That was particularly unpleasant, so that wasn't great. I think the most obvious.
So that lion audio early this morning guessed somewhere down here in the south. So we just stopped here and we're just listening, and hopefully they call again, and hopefully they're on their way north. Just check all the way down the road, see if I can see anything. Very quiet this morning. So unfortunately no audio. We're going to keep checking. Maybe one set of tracks crosses into our traverse area, but in the meantime we're going to go back to James and his torchwood.
Sorry about that, everyone. So I was just telling you about the blister beetle experience I had. Crawled over my back, the skin came up in sort of blisters and welts, and it took about a week or two before the itching finally abated. So that was probably the most desperate experience I've had with insects. Wasn't too bad though. Let's just go back to this abseiling ant and see what he's doing. I suspect that he has been caught. He's almost the translucent exoskeleton of an ant. Now he's hanging from a piece of silk, I suspect quite strongly because he has been eaten. The insides of him are gone and they've been eaten by a spider. So for the arachnophobes in the world, yes, this little fellow has met his end at the hands of a spider somewhere on this tree. Again, in the theme, banging on the theme of micro ecosystems, this tree is an ecosystem all to itself as well. Now, we're just going to walk around here a little bit, and Andrew, do not destroy the aerial on the tree, ideally. The other thing that you wouldn't necessarily expect to find under a tree like this, which is not a marula tree, would be marula nuts. But because the elephants who eat marulas with such great enthusiasm spend so much time under this tree, you find that there are lots and lots of marula nuts under here. They probably come from marula dung, not marula dung, marulas don't make dung, they're trees, from elephant dung, and then probably collected around this area by squirrels. Squirrels do stash nuts in this area, and so there's a little stash of marula nuts all the way around here. So some of them would have come straight from elephant dung, and some of them would have been picked out of the elephant dung, I suspect, by very industrious little squirrels. Now, we also had a little look around here, and there are a whole lot. You can see the conical shaped nests or burrows around here, hundreds and hundreds of antlions, and a lot of these holes have got little wars going on in them. I'm just going to try and find one. Well, there certainly were, where ants are. Here, look around here, Andrew. This is probably the best example of where to look. There's an ant nest You can see them going under the ground there, ants disappearing under there, and all around the nest, very clever and industrial antlions, which turn into lacewings, not damselflies. They've set up shop all the way around the ant nest, and I suspect quite a lot of these ants are falling prey to the industrious antlions of this little area. Quite remarkable. Now, oh, did you see one go into the hole? No, that's into the nest. Let's just go over the side here. I just want to go around this termite mound that we're next to, and we may be able to get a sight of the buffalo. Not. Okay, sorry, no, I'm talking nonsense. We can't get a look at the buffalo, but I will show you where the buffalo went. We heard them horn cracking and having a little bit of a belch at each other just down through that area there. So what they did was they probably came past this tree where the grass will be pretty good. In fact, you can actually see where all the elephant dung has been. You can see that there's a whole lot of green grass around the place where the elephants have been, and so the buffalo probably came through here and then wandered off down into the bushes over there. Right, I think we've milked this Balanites Magami tree for all it can be milked for. So we'll walk very slowly through here, and I'll answer a few queries. And there seems to be a deep fascination today with things that might poison or bite or envenomate us. And Anna Marie, you want to know where black mambas live. Andrew, watch out, that's a tree on the ground. You want to know if black mambas perhaps live in burrows. They do hibernate in burrows, and they will go into burrows, but during the summer months when they're out and about and breeding, they won't spend a lot of time in burrows. They'll spend most of the time looking around on the hunt. And then Kachino John, you want to know when the rock pythons are going to be out. They'll be out now. I haven't seen one yet this season, but they will absolutely be out at the moment. They'll probably be pretty close to laying their eggs. I'm not sure when they do lay their eggs, but I think it's around now, and they'll be around here. So it would be wonderful to see a rock python. That would be a really special sighting to have on foot. What else is there out here that we can see? You can hear the birds so beautifully when you're not driving a car. Wonderful sound there.